got quite a few changes. Most notably, I think, is with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, after lots of outcry from fans, potentially even outcry from players. I don't know if there's, not to go off on a tangent, but the video going around of the Steelers celebrating a win, um, and Matt Canada celebrating a win, and then Chris Boswell, the kicker, comes by and he says, "Well, you sure didn't have anything to do with it." So like even the players are kind of getting frustrated with him. And finally, Mike Tomlin pulled the trigger. Matt Canada is gone. So it'll be very interesting to see how this offense looks like. Do you think this solves the Steelers' offensive problems? Or do you have more faith in what Kenny Pickett will look like now, Simon? Or is whatever happens of this potentially going to be more of the same?
Sorry, my camera's pissing me off. I don't, as a general rule, I don't normally like to think that one man can completely change, make or break an offense or make or break a defense or what have you. I don't necessarily think that all the Pittsburgh Steelers' problems fall on Matt Canada. I do agree that most of the blame should go on him. They do have a little bit more talent than I think a lot of people give them credit for in that offense. But my hopes are not necessarily super high because I can't necessarily sit here in front of you and tell you that I have the most hope in Kenny Pickett. But I think that he has a lot of weapons. I think that if they put him in the right scheme, they can make it work. It's just the biggest issue that they keep running into is that offensive line. It's just terrible. And I think they're going to have to keep on. I don't know. I think they're going to have to change up a lot for something to really change. And I mean, the top line of the article I have pulled up here for reference is literally Kenny Pickett saying that he doesn't expect any major changes in the schematics of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And I mean, that should tell you enough on what you need to know. I think that.
I mean, it's hard to like what you're saying with Kenny Pickett saying that. I mean, you're not going to see anything right away because this kind of like in-season coaching change, the guy isn't going to be able to, whoever they have coming in, isn't going to be able to rehaul the entire playbook in a week. That's just not possible. Even if you have like a bye week going into the next game, which the Steelers don't, it's still a very difficult task to revamp the entire offense. Hopefully you just see changes in decision making, like less conservatism in the play calling, having Kenny Pickett throw a little bit further down the field, maybe. Just better situational football, better situational play calling. So maybe you won't see a lot of changes, like in terms of the play design, but in terms of how the game is called, hopefully that can be a little bit better. In terms of whether Matt Canada is to be at fault, I think the Steelers' offense has been pretty bad for a long time. Even before Kenny Pickett with old man Ben Roethlisberger, they were winning games because of their defense. Which begs the question, like, how much better could the Steelers team be if they had a competent offense? And like you said, they have some talent and more talent than they should have. The Steelers, to give some stats that have kind of been floating around, they never gained 400 plus yards of offense in a game under Matt Canada. And they haven't reached 400 plus total yards in 56 consecutive games, which is the second longest streak in NFL history. They are 29th in points per possession, 30th in yards per possession, 28th in total yards, and 28th in points in Matt Canada's 3 seasons.
Yeah, and I mean, that should speak enough on why he got fired. Obviously, he deserved it. Like, you can't run an offense that much into the ground. I'm more saying that I don't know if I necessarily expect a lot of changes, especially not this season. Next year, if they bring in a new offensive coordinator, switch the system up, try and, like, just try something new, right? Like, because I think it just comes down to that. If you want Pickett to be that guy, you need to trust him. You need to trust him to make those deep throws, and you need to put him in those positions. And I think we're going to really start to see that. As you mentioned, maybe trying to force a little bit more out of him. Try and really, like, maybe get him to throw deep a couple times, because you have those deep threats. Like, that's something that, like, that they definitely have. They don't need to constantly rely on all these short passes. It's just how much do you trust Pickett? Right? It's how do you trust Pickett to make those deep throws? If you don't, is this really the guy you want to put the franchises back on? Right? I think those are the questions that the Steelers are going to have to start asking themselves. I think a more interesting part of the story, I don't know if you heard this quote from Pickett. Pickett was actually upset about the fact that Canada got fired, which is really interesting. Or he took it personally, is
Well,
the words that it was used, with him saying it's a challenge to everybody. I feel like you have to take it personal. It's a guy you've worked with since I got drafted here. You want to play great. You don't want to see anyone get let go like that. So absolutely, we have to answer the bell and find out what we need to do to play better. And I think what
okay,
he
but that's the normal response to like your
Sure.
coach getting fired.
Sure,
It's
but
not
it's
like
still him
the guy
asking his
isn't
team
gonna-
to step up.
Yeah, but the guy's not going to come out unless it's like a Mike Babcock situation where the coach is actively not great to the players. The players aren't going to come out and be like, "Yeah, I wanted this guy to get fired. This is great news." Like it's not like
Yeah.
Matt Canada was like a bad person or anything. He just like wasn't calling the offense great. But obviously, all those things work in conjunction. It's like the Belichick Brady debate in terms of who is responsible for the Patriots dynasty. Is it Bill Belichick or is it Tom Brady?
Sure.
The answer
Yeah.
is like neither or both, because they could only have been as good as they were because they worked together. So as much of an issue as Matt Canada was, and believe me, he was an issue, Kenny Pickett is right to take it upon himself to be like, I need to play better. It's the right response. And of course, you don't want to see your coach go, even if deep down you know he's probably not the best fit, because you know you have some responsibility inherent in that too.
Yeah, for sure. I think that. I mean, I agree with you. I think that. I don't know. I still stand by what I said, where I don't have that type of trust in Pickett. I think that those are the type of questions that we're going to see the Steelers asking themselves: is how committed are they to the quarterback they have currently touted to be the next franchise guy. I think that because we have to start seeing more out of Pickett, right? Like he's currently
Yeah.
13 touchdowns, 13 picks. Meh, bad.
Yes. It's not great. However, I think you have to look at it situationally, and again, you have to look at it and say, yes, he had a bad play caller, and that means a lot. I think it's important to recognize how much coaching goes into the development of a young quarterback, especially one who, yes, was he a first-round pick? Yeah, but he probably shouldn't have been. It's just given how bad that draft was for quarterbacks,
Yeah.
he went 20th overall, and it was just because like. And he was the first quarterback taken at 20, which like is pretty unprecedented for this recent string of NFL drafts. He's not quite a first round talent. You need to develop him, and his development I think has kind of been stunted. So I think you need to give him another season or two at least under someone who actually knows what they're doing, and hopefully they can hire somebody who can. Because I'm still viewing Kenny Pickett as a work in progress. I think we are too quick to give up on quarterbacks. And I think guys like Geno Smith and Josh Dobbs, like there's going to be a guy every season that proves that. And Kenny Pickett kind of feels like that kind of a guy because he has the talent. He's not playing particularly well. The whole offense isn't. But it's the kind of thing where I think you can see it be unlocked further down the stretch. Because for all of the things aside, Kenny Pickett is winning games. And most of that is because of his defense. But he's played exceptionally well in fourth quarters when it matters for the Steelers, and they're 6-4 and have a playoff spot. So I don't think you can give up on the whole Kenny Pickett project just yet, and I think he deserves another season at least with a better play caller to see really if he can handle the pressure of being a starting quarterback for one of the NFL's most storied franchises.
And I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm setting. While I am definitely more on the other side of the fence, I can say that I'm not saying don't give on up, don't cut him right now, right? Like that's not what I'm saying. To be clear, I'm saying that I think in the next year, it's really going to be up to how much do the Steelers want to put into this guy, right? Do you want to build around him? Do you want to build this offense around his style, or do you want to start going, maybe we should move in a different direction? I think that's the conversation that needs to start being had in the next season and a half. Because I do agree with you. Give him a chance under another guy. If it doesn't go well, I mean, this time you fired the coordinator, maybe the next time you got to fire the quarterback, right? Like, it's just, who do you really want to blame, right? That's what I mean. Because this time, he has an easy out. He has an easy out. Whether it's him to blame or not is up to you to decide. Next time, it won't be. That's what I'm trying to say. So I think that this is a chance for Pickett to really start to show off the skill that everybody's kind of been looking for. So if he shows off, perfect. If he doesn't, that sucks. The Steelers are going to have to move in a different direction. And I think that's all those. While I get what you're saying with like the fact that we're all giving up on quarterbacks probably too quick. You also can't wait 10 years for the guy to turn into Geno Smith. Like, if Pickett needs to sit as a backup on a different team for 10 years before he turns into that, let him go do that. But it probably won't be as a Steeler.
That's true. That's true. And with the defense they have, you probably don't want to wait that long. But I don't know. I think in terms of coaching, you have to try at least another face in the room just to see if it works better.
Yeah.
For that player. Because again, like, who knows what, to go to the extreme example, who knows what Patrick Mahomes would have been if he went to a team like the Bears instead of a team like Chiefs.
And had to go under Nagy right from the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I got Nagy, funnily enough, is his QB coach now. But
I know that's why I said it from the start.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the kind of thing, like, we'll wait and see. There's been promising things. There's been not so promising things. It'll be interesting to see how he reacts if they get in a playoff game. I think that'll also be kind of informative because they're on track. 64.
Well, and everything that you've said just falls under things we will probably find out in the next year and a half, which is kind of my point, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to agree with me in the fact that, let's say new coach gets brought in after this season. This year they make it to the wild card, he shits the bed. Next season, bring in a new coordinator. Still, let's say he's mediocre. The Steelers end up going under the 8-8 mark, 8-9, whatever. They go 8-9. We'll say they go 8-9.
Oh, they're not going to do that. They're going to go 9-8. This is Mike Tomlin. They always go above 500.
Okay, they go 9-8. Pickett has under 20 touchdowns. What would you do?
Yeah, I'd probably be looking for other options, but I mean, yeah.
Like, you can't wait forever, right? That's the issue. Because I do agree with you. Inherently, if you can give these quarterbacks more time to develop, then potentially they can turn into a Geno Smith or a Josh Dobbs for you. But do you really want to put your franchise basically on hold, waiting for this guy to turn into an actual starter? Or do you want to potentially go... Because sure, I mean, if the Steelers at a certain point just want to slide him in the backup spot and try and bring in another guy so that they can do what you're talking about, that feels weird.
It's why quarterback is the toughest question to answer in the NFL. Because even if you are saying get rid of Kenny Pickett, who are you going to replace him? Because the Steelers are probably going to be drafting in the same spot. They're probably, like, unless they want to get a free agent, like if they're looking for a Kirk Cousins or something, the options are going to be limited. So it'll be interesting.
Kirk Cousins on the Pittsburgh Steelers, put that on a headline.
I could actually really see that.
That
too. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Holy shit, Caleb. Put that on a fucking ESPN headline. Although him and Pickett would have to, fight in, probably, I'm imagining, lawn darts for, number 8.
Bocce ball.
Some, what? I could see them really bonding, father and son type bond.